What would you do if your own mother looked at your innocent 6-year-old child and said these exact words? If he dies, that's one less mouth to feed. Well, I'm about to tell you exactly what I did when my mother crossed a line so horrific. It changed everything forever. By the end of this 15-minute story, you'll understand why sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't getting even. It's building something beautiful from the ashes of someone else's cruelty. Please subscribe and tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because this story will leave you absolutely speechless. My name is Sarah, and this nightmare began when I was 27, completely broke, jobless, and suddenly a single mother to my 6-year-old son Mason. Picture this beautiful child. Wild curls, bright eyes that sparkled with pure innocence, and a laugh so genuine it could light up the darkest room. When my ex abandoned us with nothing, I had only one option. Move back into the house I swore I'd never set foot in again. My mother Cynthia agreed to let us stay, temporarily, but the moment we crossed that threshold, I saw pure hatred in her eyes. She looked at Mason like he was road, kill-eyed dragged across her pristine floors. She gave us one room, the freezing basement with a thin mattress and paint peeling off the walls like dead skin. Fine, I thought. I can handle the cold. But I had absolutely no idea she planned to freeze us out in every other way too. The very first night, Mason got hungry after dinner. He'd barely touched the gray, soggy mess she called leftovers, something that looked like it had been scraped from the bottom of a garbage can. My sweet boy whispered to me with tears in his eyes, "Mommy, I want cereal." I snuck into the kitchen, quietly poured a bowl, and that's when she caught me. She yanked the spoon from my hand and hurled it across the room where it shattered against the wall like a gunshot. "You think food grows on trees now that you're unemployed?" she snapped, her eyes blazing with a hatred that made my stomach turn. "He already ate." I apologized like a scolded child, but she didn't respond, just stared at Mason, waiting for him to cry. He didn't. I didn't know then that this was his first test, and there would be many, many more to come. The next morning I had a crucial job interview that could change our lives. I left Mason with her, and he smiled and waved from the window, clutching his little dinosaur plushie, the only toy he had left in this world. When I returned 2 hours later, something felt terribly, horribly wrong. No Mason at the door, no sound from the living room, just an eerie silence that made my skin crawl. Then I heard shuffling from the back porch. I stepped outside and found him sitting on the concrete steps, completely alone, teeth chattering in the cold morning air. His dinosaur in his lap, and strange brown crumbs around his mouth. "What did you eat, baby?" I asked, kneeling down beside him. He looked up with those innocent eyes and said words that still haunt my nightmares. "Grandma gave me doggy cookies for breakfast." My blood turned to ice. "What?" He pointed to the metal bowl by the dog's crate with his tiny finger. "It's crunchy like cereal. I just need to pretend." I didn't move. I didn't scream. I walked straight inside to my mother, who was casually sitting on the phone, laughing about something with her friend. "You fed him dog food." The words came out like broken glass cutting my throat. She didn't even flinch, didn't even pause her conversation. "He's lucky he got that. If he dies, that's one less mouth to feed, huh?" Then she laughed, actually laughed, at her own twisted, evil joke. I stood there completely frozen as a sick, ice-cold feeling spread through my entire body like poison. That night, I tucked Mason in with a thin blanket I'd found in a donation bin outside a church. I looked at his pale little cheeks, the split lip from tripping the day before that she hadn't bothered to clean, the tiny holes in his worn-out socks. I didn't sleep a single minute that night. The next day, I started working as a night janitor, the only job I could find that paid cash immediately. When I returned at 3 a.m., exhausted and reeking of cleaning chemicals, I found Mason curled up in the corner of the laundry room, sleeping on a pile of dirty, damp towels. The blanket I'd given him was gone. The dog's food bowl was completely empty. The next morning, I confronted her with shaking hands. Why was he sleeping in the laundry room? "He likes it there," she said with a casual shrug, not even looking up from her coffee. "Don't act like you didn't grow up sleeping in worse places." Something inside me broke so quietly it was almost peaceful. I didn't yell, didn't argue, didn't even cry. Instead, I started watching her every move. And recording everything. I made him breakfast in secret using my own money, fed him in the car before I left for work, hid snacks in my purse like a criminal. I kept him close to me whenever possible, and I documented every single moment of her abuse. Photos with timestamps, a garbage bag full of chewed dog biscuits, screenshots of Mason's heartbreaking text messages to me from the other room. "Mommy, I'm hungry. Grandma said I was a worm and worms don't deserve food." 3 days after the dog biscuit incident, my mother installed a heavy padlock on the kitchen pantry. She didn't say a word to me about it, just smirked and tapped the key she wore around her neck like some twisted trophy. "You'll both learn to be grateful," she said, sipping her black coffee while staring at Mason. "That boy eats too much. You're raising a pathetic little beggar." I could see Mason's tiny shoulders tense up behind me, but I didn't feed her anger this time. I fed my plan. Working the night shift gave me access to the loading docks behind the supermarket next door. A kind cashier named Tasha started leaving me extras after her shifts: day-old muffins, dented soup cans, bruised bananas, anything that would help feed my son. I told her I had a growing boy at home who was always hungry, and she doubled the bags without asking a single question. I smuggled all that food into our basement prison, hiding it behind the old water heater where she'd never think to look. We called it Operation Secret Snack Fort, and Mason would giggle when I told him we were undercover spies collecting supplies for a dangerous rescue mission. But I wasn't joking around. This was life or death. Every single night brought fresh new horrors that I had to witness. Red patches on his delicate skin from where she made him scrub the stairs with harsh chemicals, mysterious bruises on his legs that she claimed came from him being naturally clumsy, and once I found him brushing his teeth with table salt because she told him toothpaste was a luxury for spoiled brats. She was systematically breaking down my child's spirit, piece by piece, day by day. One night, I came home 2 hours early because my manager had let me leave after a pipe burst in the building. The house was eerily dark, too quiet. I didn't even take off my work shoes. I moved through the house like a ghost and heard whispering coming from the kitchen. Then I heard Mason's trembling, terrified voice. "I'm sorry, Grandma. I'll be good. I won't laugh again, I promise." My mother's voice came back, sharp and mocking like a blade. "Little rats don't get to laugh in my house. You want to laugh? Laugh at this." The sound echoed through the house like a gunshot. Then complete, deafening silence. I was standing in that kitchen doorway before I even felt my body move. Mason's left cheek was bright red with a perfect outline of her hand, his eyes wide with pure terror. He was sitting on the cold tile floor with an open can of dog biscuits scattered in front of him. Again. My mother stood above him holding a wooden cooking spoon like a weapon, not even pretending to be sorry about what she'd done. "Touch him again," I said, my voice deadly calm and controlled. "And I swear on everything holy, Cynthia, you'll regret the day you ever called yourself a mother." She stepped backward, genuinely startled by the ice in my voice. "Don't you dare threaten me in my house, you ungrateful little house." I smiled, and it wasn't a friendly smile. "You mean the one you stopped paying property taxes on last year?" Her eyes narrowed into suspicious slits. "What the hell are you talking about?" That's when I knew she had absolutely no idea what I'd been planning for the past month. While she was busy torturing my son, I'd been meeting secretly with a lawyer downtown, using money I'd saved from my janitor job. With Tasha's help and some old financial documents my father had kept hidden in the dusty attic, I discovered something absolutely incredible. The house had a massive lien on it for unpaid taxes, and ownership had never been fully transferred into my mother's name after my grandmother died. It still legally belonged to my late grandmother, a strong woman my mother had always despised. According to the original will, if the property ever became a hostile or unsafe environment for her direct descendants, it would automatically default to the next eligible family member who could provide solid evidence of abuse or neglect. I had mountains of evidence. Photos, recordings, witness statements, medical records, text messages, everything perfectly documented and organized in a thick legal folder. I took Mason to stay with Tasha's aunt for a week, a warm, loving grandmother with 2 grandchildren and a house full of laughter, books, and homemade cookies. Then I returned to face my mother alone. When she opened the front door and looked behind me with confusion, she frowned. "Where's the little mutt?" I handed her a thick manila envelope without saying a single word. "Gone forever. And very soon you will be too." Her hand started shaking violently as she tore open the envelope. Official court papers, complete documentation, photos of Mason sleeping in piles of dirty laundry, snapshots of dog food bowls, and a formal letter from my lawyer stating that I had successfully filed for full transfer of the house under Inheritance Clause 7C, citing systematic domestic neglect, verbal abuse, and deliberate failure to provide basic necessities to a minor child. She screamed at me, called me a traitor, a thief, a snake, every horrible name in the book. I let her scream until her voice was hoarse. Then I handed her one final thing. A small clear Ziploc bag containing the original chewed-up dog biscuit from that very first morning, carefully labeled with the date and time. I said absolutely nothing, just turned around and walked away. Behind me, I heard her collapse to her knees on the porch, sobbing. The eviction took exactly 2 weeks. Not because of legal delays. My lawyer was incredibly fast and the evidence was completely airtight. It took 2 weeks because I gave them the chance to leave quietly, to pack up what little dignity they had left and disappear before the entire town could see what kind of monsters they really were. They didn't take that merciful option. On the final day, I arrived with the county sheriff and a professional locksmith. I stood on that same porch holding Mason's tiny hand while she screamed from inside that she would burn this whole damn house to the ground before letting me have it. As she passed me carrying her pathetic belongings in torn trash bags, she hissed one last time, "You think you're so much better than me now?" I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "No, Cynthia. I've always been better than you. I was just too scared and broken to admit it." She flinched like I had physically slapped her, then walked off down the street into absolutely nothing. But this story isn't just about revenge. It's about rebuilding from ashes. I transformed that house of horrors into a home filled with light, laughter, and love. Every room she had kept dark and cold, I painted bright colors. I replaced her kitchen locks with cheerful chalkboards where Mason could write what he wanted for dinner. We painted the pantry door bright yellow and filled it with snacks he could reach by himself. 3 months later, I hosted a dinner party where Mason wore a superhero cape and made everyone laugh until their sides hurt. Looking around that table, I realized I hadn't just gotten revenge. I had built a completely new legacy of love. And that, my friends, was the ultimate victory.